This is how you put in A-arm bushings on a Kawasaki 650, which I suppose is pretty close to any A-arm bushings that you'd have to put in. Alright, here we go. First of all, you have to remove the tire. And after removing the tire, it's always a wise idea to have a bucket to put your parts in, or a bowl. In this case, we're going to use the box that the bushing kit comes in. And the bushing kit has everything in it that you're going to need to switch out the upper A-arms bushings. First thing you do is loosen the shock tower. To loosen the shock tower, it's a 9/16 bolt. You can see there's a lot of movement and play in the A-arm. Now, after you loosen the shock tower up, you're going to take it off. It's best to have a little bungee cord. It'll hold it up out of the way. Loosen the top of the shock. You don't have to take it all the way out. Wiggle it. Put it up here out of the way. Take a bungee cord, clamp. This is all just in preparation for getting to the bushings at the back of the A-arm. You can do this without having to take off the ball joint. It's a lot quicker and easier, and you don't have to buy a new ball joint. Alright, for the A-arm, it's also 7/16. It can be a little on the trickier side because it's kind of hard to get to. You have to wiggle this inner bushing there, and you can feel it kind of break loose, and then finally you can see how that bushing's just completely corroded with junk, and the needles are just falling out of it. You can see how this bushing right here is eaten completely in half. And there's just all manner of the needles and the rings and everything is just packed in there. You can see a couple of the needles there. Okay, the next thing that you do is you want to remove the circle clip that's on the opposite side there. If you can shine in on that, babe. You can see the circle clip in there. You got to remove it, and then you'll remove your first bearing. And just use a pair of clip removers or pliers or whatever. Alright, we'll go ahead and get a hold of that, pull it out. Once you remove the circle clip, you can see all the gunk and the nasty that kind of builds up on it. Just throw that off the side. This is a good time to inspect the A-arm to make sure that there's no damage to the actual A-arm itself. As you can see here, the inner needle bearing is just completely rusted through. A lot of folks think that that's from washing your ATV too much or splashing through puddles. I tend to think that it's just what happens to them. Alright, after you have the circle clip removed, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to knock out that spherical bearing that's in the back. Best way to do that is with a 3/8 inch extension, and you'll slide it into the back end where the needle bearing is of your A-arm. Okay, what you want to do is you want to slide that in the back into your A-arm and give it a few taps to loosen that bearing up. You can see that the bearing has a lot of wear on it. It's very loose. And the next thing that you're going to want to do is you'll want to turn your extension over, and we're going to drive the other bearing, the needle bearing, back out the other side. Now to do the needle bearing, the best thing I've found is a 5/8 inch spark plug socket, because it fits perfectly down the shaft of the bearing, and then that 3/8 inch extension, and then you just punch that bearing out. Now these bearings can be pressed in as well. If you press them in, of course you're going to have to take off the ball joint there. This is how you do it without that. Alright, when you slide that socket down in like so, you give her a few good solid taps, and your needle bearing will pop right out. I'll take a chance to show you the kit here. The kit comes with everything you'll need to replace it. You have your old sphere bearing. You can see how it's just corroded and nasty, and the hole in the center of it's kind of wore out. And looking at your new bearing, you can see that they're a lot thicker. The bearings in there are a lot tighter, and it actually has a circle as opposed to an oval. Then you can look at your old needle bearing here. You can see it's wore pretty bad. There's a lot of rust and everything on it. And then you have your new needle bearing, which actually is a lot heavier gauge, and you can notice in here has needles in it. So, no needles, needles. Makes all the difference in the world. Alright, so we're about ready to put this all back together. Let me finish cleaning this out and we'll put her back together. Okay, now that we've got this cleaned up here, you can see that there's a lot of corrosion and stuff on the inside. What I did was I took a small emery cloth and run through there and got it pretty clean and smooth, and I rinsed it out real good. Got it ready to go ahead and put our new stuff in. In order to put the new kit in, we'll start in reverse of how we took it off. So the first is we will press in our new bearing. You see there? It's always a good idea to, when you press in your bearing, make sure that you've got a little grease on it so it moves in nice and smooth, slides in. So pack a little grease there, run a little grease around the inside there. Now the bearing is tapered on one end and flat on the other. You want to use your tapered end to put it in. Make sure that it's a nice, good, tight fit. And the easiest way that I've found to put these in is to use a clamp to press it in. So you take your clamp, just start pressing. Once you've got the bearing pressed in the majority of the way, you'll want to take the socket and press it on in the rest of the way. To do that, you'll just take and hold it, give it a few little taps, and you'll tap until you can see the circle clip ring. After you can see the circle clip ring, you've made it far enough in. Give her another tap there, and clean that out good in there. Make sure that bearing moves freely, and place your circle clip in. You can use a circle clamp clip, or you can use these little roach clips here. I find that they work better anyway. So you take it, get ready, squeeze it together, put it all in, and make sure she's down in place, which it appears that it is, all the way down. There you go. Now we're going to put in the needle bearing on the back side. Alright, we'll take our needle bearing. We've packed it full of grease there, and we're going to go ahead and place it in the A-arm here. Okay, if you look at one side of your needle bearing, one side's a little flatter than the other. You want to make sure that the tapered side is the side that's going towards into the A-arm. So you press that in. Make sure it's squared. And you will once again take you a small piece of wood and a hammer and press that into place. You want to use a piece of wood to make sure that you don't mar up the bearing. Hold it in place and give it a few good swift taps, and that knocks your bearing in. Okay, after that you want to go ahead and get your 5/8 plug wrench here and give her some swift taps to knock it on into place. And once your bearing is in place, you'll take your bushing which it looks a lot cleaner than the old bushing, which stuff's falling out of. You can also see that it's a little bit heavier grade. You'll take that bushing and you'll slide it into place. The bushing will hang out that side just a little bit, because the next thing you're going to put on is your rubber seal. And pop your rubber seal into place. And that side is complete. For the other side, you'll take your smaller bushing, which the old one you see is fairly worn. It's more oblong. And then you have this one, which is actually round. You'll place it in onto the other side. And you'll take your other seal and pop it into place. After you press those into place, everything feels good and sturdy. It's a good time now to take your bolt that holds your A-arm in place to the frame and make sure that everything matches up, which it does. So, just the opposite in reverse of how you took it off. Spin the A-arm back around. At this point in time, you'll need to lift the A-arm up into good place. You'll take a block of wood, a little stool, and where you can manipulate that A-arm, where your bolt will go through. You take your bolt, slide it all the way through, and go ahead and tighten that down. After you have your bolt in place, tightened down, you can go ahead and start your reassembly. It comes off, or it goes on just like it came off. Everything looks in good shape. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and tighten that down now. And you notice the play that we had before is now gone. And that is how you replace A-arm bushings on a Kawasaki 650.